Hello and welcome to the Armchair Show, where we talk about all things automotive and help you learn, grow and prosper. I'm your host, Mark Ellis, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined today by four very special guests. From left to right, we've got Joel Coombs, Sales and Marketing Director at Logistics, who are also today's sponsor. We've got Darren Pengelly, Head of Marketing and Commercial Actions at Eurorepar Car Service. Keith Jackman, Head of Marketing and CRM at Sandown Group. And last but not least, Matthew Cheyene, Director at Rapid RTC. Today we are sponsored by Logistics, and Joel's here as their representative. And before we get cracking, let's hear a little bit more about their HR manager.
HR Manager is Logistics' new compliance management software, which claims it's so simple even a child could use it. Awarded Product Innovation of the Year at the prestigious Power Awards only 9 months after its release, and with nearly 300 users using it in the UK, HR Manager is certainly something that you should take a closer look at. When you're running a successful business in the motor trade, the last thing you want to be worrying about is compliance. HR Manager allows you to delegate HR, health and safety, and GDPR responsibilities, and then monitor compliance without leaving your desk. Even employee attendance and performance can be tracked remotely. With no limitations on users, locations, departments, employees, or storage, HR Manager meets the requirements of any size company. And amazingly, it's free to Logistics members. You can go check it out at logistics.co.uk or hrmanager.co.uk.
We've got quite a bit to cover, but I'm going to hit you all with a question straight away, which is, if you could head back 5 years, what would you tell yourselves about marketing in 2019? So your 5-year-old self, what would you tell that person? Let's start with yourself, Matthew.
I think marketing today is vastly different to where it was even 6 months ago, let alone 5 years ago. So I think it's embraced change. Marketing, the traditional marketing channels are fast disappearing. So the big TV advert campaigns and so on, I think they're going to disappear. Marketing is now more targeted, more digital, follows you around a lot more. You see adverts popping up on your favourite internet pages that advertising things that you have been looking at elsewhere. So 5 years ago, I would have said embrace change and think what's possible, not what's impossible, because it's going to happen, and it's going to happen quicker than you think it would.
Darren, would you agree?
Yes, I also think that the communities that surround the industry are crucial as well, and spending more time investing in dialogue with those communities and creating advocates and influencers can really be rewarding in terms of the more traditional types of advertising.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, just quickly on the influence side of thing, I think there's probably a bit of a misnomer that influencers have to be celebrities. That's not really the case, is it? I think an influencer could be your mum or dad, couldn't it, who's bought a car, for example. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, I would agree in principle, although we ran a model within our company on making our lawyers influencers or making them celebrities within the industry we work within, to give them a bit of a showpiece, and that certainly helped us in marketing the company. We wanted to get across the amount of different things that we could deal with, and by them telling their stories and showing how they deal with them individuals, made them celebrities within the industry. So I'm half with you on that, but equally I think it's good to raise someone's profile in the industry so that they can be an influencer. And I think we have so many different platforms to do that on now, and I think looking back 5 years ago, what I would have done differently is be on more of those platforms there, because I chose a couple, and certainly a lot of people will say in marketing it's being in the right place at the right time, but I'd rather say it's putting yourself in the right place and waiting for the right time. And when that right time happens, you need to be an influencer in that area. So yeah, 5 years ago, I think I would have put myself on more social media platforms.
Fair enough. Yeah, but there's certainly enough to choose from, aren't there? But like you say, it's about choosing the right.
Yeah, I may have gone for my favourite.
What is your favourite?
My favourite was Twitter, because it's instant, and it's instant marketing. But there's been a downfall on that over the last 5 years. We were very heavy on it, and we've now moved towards Facebook. It was very hard to get into, but Facebook has certainly, over the last 2 years, contributed to probably 20% of our sales now through introductions on Facebook's. So yeah, I avoided it because it was difficult, but it was one of the better ones.
This goes to show, doesn't it? Keith, what would you say to yourself 5 years ago?
I think really invest in your marketing team. It's always been the position that somebody else did or was bolted on. Oh, you're good at that, you can get on with that. And I think the people, the foresight to actually go out there, get proper marketeers, train marketeers, and allow them to grow and actually do some marketing. Unfortunately, I've been in that position, but there's still an awful lot of companies out there that don't. It's somebody else that just bolted on and picks up the marketing piece.
Absolutely. Matthew?
I think, actually, listening to what you've all said there, I think the biggest key really is being able to be nimble. Joel was saying about Twitter and Facebook and so on. You can't stay in one channel for too long, and you have to have the right people who can guide you where people are. I mean, there's the TikTok is on the rise now. 6 months ago, TikTok didn't exist. If that's going to become a marketing channel, you need to have people who can understand TikTok, and the speed of change is increasing more and more and more. As you said, Keith, if you haven't got the right people in your business who can adapt, change, and utilise those channels, then it's the same as 20 years ago putting an advert in the local paper. You don't, it's not targeted, it's not measured, it's not recorded. You don't know the effect it's having. So, marketing gives you huge potential up benefits, but also huge potential negatives. And you're talking about advocates and influencers. I remember back to the Kia campaign where they started using the customer actual feedback, which was massively impactful for them, because it wasn't them saying, look at us, we're a car company, buy from us. It was them saying, these are our real life customers who believe in us and believe in our products. So it's safe for you to believe in us as well. And, if you can recreate that, then that's the benefit of marketing today.
I think it's important not just to tick the box as well with all these new channels. It's easy just to set up that Twitter account or Facebook account.
Absolutely.
And just leave it dormant. You've really got to invest the time if you're gonna see the rewards.
Yeah, you see so many accounts, don't you, that just have, like you say, been set up a little bit like blogging is. Companies start blogs and they do it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it just kind of understandably falls by the wayside. Yeah. And why do you think that the reason is for that? Obviously, we've got marketers in the room here. Why do these channels suddenly become less important, seemingly, in the eyes of business owners or potentially even marketing departments?
I think it's probably about time, to be fair. I said earlier that we've invested in a marketing team, but it's still a small team, and marketing channels are so vast and so wide. 1 minute we're doing an advert to put in the toilet downstairs, and next minute we're writing a blog on the latest thing. There's just so many, and to do so much takes up so much time, and some just automatically fall to the bottom.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I was going to say that sometimes it's linked to expertise as well. You can set up a platform, but it doesn't make you an expert. I think that's when outsourcing becomes crucial, getting the right people in that can deliver the message in the right way on those platforms and manage it for you as well. As you say, time. The best way to manage your time is to get someone else to put the graft in if you can afford to.
Absolutely. It's about inspiration, isn't it, for content as well. I know Lee, who's someone we all know very well today, he said to me the other day, what can we all learn from Kim Kardashian? Which sounds like a daft question, but actually it's true. She has millions of followers for a reason, as does Kanye West. I could go through all the Kardashian family here if you want me to, but I'll embarrass myself. But we can probably learn a lot from that as marketeers, can't we? What in this industry in particular, is it tough coming up with content that is genuinely engaging? Do you need a marketing agency to do that, or is it something that if you're a dealership, for example, or a supplier, that you can do yourself in-house? What do you think, Joel?
I've certainly seen the importance of it, and I think where you said earlier about people falling off of platforms, or they might go on to a social platform and think this isn't working for us. If they're not getting something back, that's the reason they've gone away from it. For us, we've always looked to provide unique content. We're very privileged because we're writing about something that is quite unique within the trade on the legal stance, but it's also about telling a story. So my stance to make celebrities out of the legal team was therefore putting their story as well, putting something personal. If we put something personal about somebody that we have online, we find we get a lot more hits on it as well. So it's about, it was only just this 2 weeks ago, I said we're cutting all paper adverts next year, and we're actually just going for events, because events is something we can talk about, and we can talk about them before the event and after the event and during the event, and there's plenty of content there. Whereas when it comes to paper advertising, it's very static. There's still a reason for it, but we can spend more money or more of our budget on just those building a story.
Absolutely. Matthew, do you agree?
I do agree. I think the other thing is that people overcomplicate it. And we've all probably seen adverts or campaigns and sat there and said, but what are you trying to tell me? Or what are you trying to sell me? And I think if the modern channels these days actually give you the ability to cut right to the heart of what you're trying to say to the customer much more directly. You're not dependent on them buying a publication or watching an advert or so on. You can target them. And I think the other thing that we lose sight of, and it's partly the previous question about which channel you go on, is people don't measure it properly. And we now have the ability to measure absolutely everything we do, and then to relate our future plans and future strategies back to what worked, what didn't work, and so on. When you're in the tick in the box exercise for marketing, and you're absolutely right, Keith, that's the way a lot of people do approach it. They don't have the time to do it properly. The time and money invested in doing it properly actually will pay you tenfold. There's no point creating all of these engagements and leads and inquiries and so on if you then don't follow it through. So my advice would be keep it simple and deliver on what you'd say you're going to do. And if you can do it that way and then also measure the success, then you have an evolving strategy that should work for you.
Yep. Keith, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I remember years ago trying to sell social media to my then boss, and he said to me, why would people want to follow a garage? And to be fair, I was stumped for a little bit. Okay, you got a point, I
Fair
guess.
question.
And I think we've just said really, if you just followed a garage and all you did is put adverts up of £1.99 a month, why would people follow? They won't. It needs to be, as John said, personal content, interesting content, and stuff that is going to actually appeal to people.
Absolutely. Thinking about marketing in general, if I was a marketer who didn't have much experience of the automotive industry, why should I join? What would attract me to this instead of, for example, hospitality or something else? Darren?
I remember somebody saying to me quite early on in my career that selling cars is a lot more exciting than selling toothbrushes. So that's always something to consider. But I do think, looking at the position we're in now with electrification and autonomous vehicles just around the corner, we're really going to need good people coming into the industry to really translate the messages that are associated with those things and translate it into the marketplace. So it's a very exciting time for someone to come in and really, I guess, make a name for themselves on the back of those developments.
Absolutely. I see you nodding vigorously, Matthew.
I totally agree. I also think as an industry, we attract people because of the glamour or the perceived glamour, but the reality is that we're also an industry that has a sense of humour, and if you're a creative marketer, then you can actually express that sense of humour. And we're probably an industry that's not scared to take risks, partly because there are so few experienced marketeers at the sort of the ground level. So someone coming in, I certainly have had people, graduates come and work for me, and they're sort of telling me about things that I never dreamt of, and it's go on then, let's give it a try, let's have a go. And
have you got any examples of that, Matthew, in terms of new stuff?
I remember parking a car in a busy shopping centre in Bristol and letting the members of the public come up and sign it. And I thought this was crazy, but as a data capture exercise, it was probably one of the most successful that we did for that brand at that point in time. So it's give it a go.
Yep.
And don't be scared to imagine what you could achieve.
In the legal field, Joel, how do you find acquiring new talent, acquiring graduates and that kind of thing? Are you inundated with them, or do you find it difficult to attract new marketing talent to your industry?
Within our company, I'm responsible for the marketing, so I'm not really looking to step down. I do like to listen to the young blood when it comes in.
You just don't want to be usurped.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I have more difficulty recruiting legal people within the trade because we're very, across the board, we're looking for people that deal with consumer issues, and it's very hard to find someone with that sort of experience. So, yeah, I'm not looking for any marketeers.
Well, I suppose looking at it a different way, what does it take to be a good marketeer in this industry? Darren, what's your thoughts on that?
I think it helps to have a creative mind, or to be able to, I guess, spot a good idea. But more importantly than that, it's really having the assertiveness to then take that sort of idea from conception and follow it through. Make sure that you do all the things that you need to along the way, like somebody was referring to earlier. It's that monitoring, measuring, adjusting the campaign to ensure its success.
Yeah. What do you think, Keith?
Yeah, I try and put people off being too creative when they join us. I work for brand. We're very much driven by what we can say and what we can't say, and people coming in being very imaginative is fantastic, but you kind of have to manage their expectations. And what they're really going to do is sit there and look at spreadsheets and spreadsheets and spreadsheets. And as we said before, you can't measure it, then you can't change it. And as long as they can get that bit, and it's not all about the nice shiny cars, and actually there's a lot of hard work goes in behind the scenes, then that, to me, they make the good marketers.
Yeah, and I think, like you've all said, really, it's about telling stories, isn't it, in the best possible way, finding engaging stories to tell. I guess there is a little bit of a battle against the influencer market. I know I was speaking to someone who's a writer in the trade, and he was saying he's been doing it for 30, 35 years. He goes to car launches now, and he'll turn up there, and there'll be influencers there who can't drive, and they have to jump in the car with him. And he's sitting there thinking, I've done this. This is my racket. It's something I've done. I drive. I love cars. These people are turning up, grabbing a lift with a trained journo and having a photo, taking on the bonnet of the car and that kind of thing. Is that something that you've come across yourselves in marketing in this industry, Matthew? I think you've seen it along those lines.
Absolutely. I think it's changed dramatically, very, very quickly. I think if it wouldn't be that long ago you'd go to a car launch. It would be, I don't know, south of France, something like that. A pack of trained journalists who've been there for many, many years. Everyone knows each other, and you could almost predict what was going to be written about the vehicle. Now you've got people who, as you just said, they don't even drive. They're 16, 17 years old. They're bloggers. Their business operates from their bedroom. They expect the same access to press fleets and companies and material as anybody else. And the reality is you have to encompass those people as well, because they're the influencers. It isn't the middle-aged white journalist who's sort of 50, 60 years old. It is the guy who will be a car journalist today, and he'll be on Strictly next week or next month. Those are the people that, in actual fact, are driving opinion in this industry today.
Yeah, it's easy to poke fun at them, isn't it, I think, really? And obviously the guy that I was talking to was a little bit bruised by it, but even he admitted that that's, you have to give these people the respect they deserve, really, because it's their job, and they do drive a number of buyers to the right market. I know in the last episode we talked about the buyer journey, and one of our guests said that it shouldn't really be seen as a journey these days because it's so dynamic. People buy cars in very different ways. I bought a car myself very traditionally last year, but I know I'm probably old-fashioned in that respect. How much has the car buyer process, if we call it that, how much has that changed, Darren?
I think in the digital age it's as easy to buy a car as it is to order a pizza now, isn't it? But that doesn't mean that everybody wants to do it that way. And I think, yes, there's a certain part of the marketplace that are comfortable to buy a car online, and they will complete the entire process done that way. But that's a small and growing part of the market at the moment. There's still people in need to come into that dealership and get that physical experience that's been a traditional part of our buying process. I think the skill, really, from the salesperson's point of view and from the marketer's point of view, is identifying where the customer sits within that buying process. So you're not perhaps unnecessarily duplicating messages, or perhaps lengthening and slowing down the buying process and frustrating the customer. I think that's quite important.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
I think the buyer comes to you with a lot more information than they ever used to have. So it's very often that they don't need a salesperson in the process. They need really a facilitator on their we're not allowed to call it a journey yet, but on their journey of
You
purchasing
can still
that
call it a
vehicle.
journey, it's fine.
Thank
It's
you.
not a banned word.
So, yeah, they just need help. They're very armed. I mean, from our side of things, it'd probably be how's it's in the digital age, how is it to reject a vehicle would be what we're looking at. And it's very quick process, as in buying the vehicle is a very quick process. So we've seen it from both sides. But it's because the consumer has a lot more information about that vehicle, their expectation of the vehicle, that they might not get what they thought they got. And then they're a lot happier to reject it as well. And that process is speeded up, and we have to deal with it. Instead of 7 days where someone will write to you and say, I want an answer within 7 days or else. Now we're getting, I want an by this afternoon, I want an answer, else I'm going on social media and going to leave a bad review. So, yeah, the digital age, brilliant for buying a car. Equally as brilliant if you've got a problem with the car to sing and shout about it.
Absolutely. Well, hold that thought. That will take us neatly on to the next topic after we've refreshed ourselves with some more coffee. So we'll take a short break and then we'll come back in a moment. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Right, welcome back, guys. All suitably refreshed and full of coffee and in our little Soho studio, which is definitely cooling down now. It seems to, I don't know if that's the atmosphere in the room, but it's definitely, we're going to warm it up now and make it very exciting. Just before the break, we were talking about the customer, I'm not going to say the word journey, I did say the word journey, but the customer process. What is it like buying a car in the digital age? It's a very open question for you, and I'll throw that to Keith.
I think it was probably covered earlier, really. It's just there's so much information out there now. And it's absolutely right, when people come to us, they generally know more about the car they're looking at than we do. And it's very easy to say you can get up to speed, but this plethora of information about our vehicles, and you can't keep up with it all sometimes. So when they come in, they are definitely on the front foot, and it's really about managing their expectations as well, because they'll see a car that has all the bells and whistles on in a particular colour, and this is kind of where I believe salesmen do still have a role, in as much that they have to say, well, that's a lovely car, but what you can actually have is this one, because this is the one we have in stock, or it's the one we have access to. And I think that's probably a bit of a change, really. They're still coming in, they still buy cars, but probably not exactly the car they think they're going to buy.
No. So, and how big a influence do customer reviews have on this? Is it something that dealerships in particular should be frightened of?
No, I don't think so. I think transparency probably is where we're headed, really. Going back to what Keith just said, I wholeheartedly agree. It's about confusion, and how does the customer navigate their way through the confusion? There is an abundance of information, there's an abundance of opinions. Customers are shopping, 5 different dealerships at the same time, 5 different brands, so brand loyalty is dissolving. They're looking for people to reinforce their decision almost, and this is where I think I read somewhere that Facebook actually is a bigger influencer on people's buying decisions than the advertising is, because they don't want their peer group to actually look at them and say you made the wrong choice there. So customer reviews, friends, family and so on, people are almost, because they get so confused, because they don't know how to navigate through this digital journey, they are depending on people they trust. And going back to what I said earlier about Kia, if you've got independent customer reviews, then it says you can trust us, and that's what I think people will be driven more to those sort of businesses than the hard sell, I've got a deal for you type operations. I don't think people are necessarily looking for deals now. They're looking for, are you the right? I can choose what vehicle and how I want to buy it. Are you the right people for me to spend my money with? And that's what they're looking for reinforcement for.
I guess that's how they enter the showroom at this stage, isn't it? Quite often they've done that research. They've read customer reviews. They've read industry reviews as well.
I was going to say about the reviews. It should be in your marketing plan. It's part of the company's marketing. And over the last 5 years, we've continuously been asked, "Oh, bad reviews. How can we get them down?" It's not about how can you get them down. It's about how you're going to handle them. And it's a great way of showing customer service how you handle a customer's issue. So you should embrace them, and it should be in your marketing plan. because it will sing about the company and what you do about customer complaints, if you get some, which I'm sure people do.
It's inevitable, isn't it, really? And also, I suppose it's that old adage that the most unhappy customers are the most vocal and the ones that you'll see most readily, really. But as you've just said, Joel, it's from a bystander's point of view, you're looking at how that brand interacts with that negative
Absolutely.
review. What can brands do if they come across a bad review? Do they panic? Do they run away, have a little cry and come back and do something about it? What's the best way to deal with a negative review, Darren?
I think you've just got to approach it that it's an opportunity to learn something about your business. You know, if you go back to the times where reviews weren't so prevalent, you know, we were all blind really in the industry in terms of what the most important people in our business, the customers, really felt. You know, I think you've really got to judge it or treat it as a learning experience for your business, and as I say, have it on your as Joel said, have it on your plan to deal with those things and respond in the proper way.
Yeah, so make customer reviews part of the marketing plan a key. But I'm guessing that's very rare. That would be the case these days in traditional contemporary marketing plans. Is that fair to say?
I think people seem very quick to lose it or bury it, whereas I see it as an opportunity rather than removing it totally. And it's hard to remove because you're going to get into the scope of fake reviews, and it's a lot that we write about that you shouldn't be encouraged down that road because, one, it's illegal, and it's going to make the company look bad. So, yeah, it should be in the marketing plan.
Yeah, we could get into the topic of fake reviews now, but maybe now's not the best time. It's probably a separate podcast in its own right. We'll reserve a full day for that, I think, as well. What do you think, Keith, in terms of customer reviews? Is it something that's driving the industry, and does the industry need to react differently to those reviews?
Yeah, again, I guess we're fortunate. We work for great brands, so you know we seldom get bad reviews, and our culture is in our business is all very much customer focused. So when we get a bad review, it hurts. It really does hurt because you think that's not what we do. You know, it's somebody possibly that's gone out there earlier with a slightly different angle, but it's just about getting them very quickly. If you can, take them offline and deal with it. You know, we'll speak to you privately and take it offline, and follow them up. And I know certainly if I look to buy stuff, you know, if you've got 99 people saying you're a great company and one person says they're rubbish, you kind of go, okay.
You can kind of spot serial bad reviewers, can't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's the same in the hotel industry, isn't it? I think if you go on TripAdvisor, it's pretty obvious who to listen to and who to be a little bit wary of, really. I suppose that brings us on to the next topic, really, which is marketing mistakes. I don't know if anyone's going to be brave and admit a mistake they've made this year, but I'll give you the choice. Either a mistake you've made this year or something you've seen, not having to name any names, during 2019, which wasn't the best example of marketing in the automotive industry. Who wants to go first? It's where it goes very quiet.
Can I say?
Go for it.
Silence the squawk.
You might have to expand on that.
Well, there's a good example there. Well, no. Sorry, Auto Trader. But Auto Trader pumped millions into Silence the Squawk. I was not suggesting it was a flop, but the fact that none of you had ever heard of it.
Might say something about it. Darren, can you think of anything in particular?
Not in particular, but this goes back to a point that Matthew was talking about earlier, where he talked about the mistake of being stuck in traditional channels. I think it's so easy just to be active in a marketing field because the competition are there or because it's something you've always done. And I think there's a big lesson to be learned in terms of asking yourself what is the true return on investment for being in a particular channel, and also just looking at what else is out there, what other opportunities can deliver for you. And you know, it's not just about sort of jumping wildly into all these other things. It's about doing the research to know where you're going to get the best return. But certainly, you know, breaking away from the traditional channels and really doing the research to see what those things are delivering you now, as opposed to other opportunities, is crucial.
Absolutely. Matthew, any thoughts on, no specifics, but anything that you've seen that's raised an eyebrow?
I think I know you mentioned it the other week, but the Tesla this weekend is almost on the bizarre. Not only the whole window thing, but also the design of the vehicle. You sit there and you think, if that is actually the vehicle that they will bring to market, you sit there and look at it and go, how did no one ever actually say, hang on a second, that's ridiculous. I suspect that will actually turn out to be one of the biggest marketing coups of the decade, because I suspect that's not actually the vehicle they're going to bring, but hey, we're all talking about it. And I think the trouble with mistakes is marketing's so personal. So what appeals to you may not appeal to me. We never know what the true objective is or what the true message is until you see the marketing. And I think it goes back to what I said earlier, which is don't be too complicated. We all remember was it Jaguar spent $2.5 million or something on a launch of a vehicle last year or the year before, and it was suspended above Tower Bridge and all this sort of stuff. No one remembers that now. No. Whereas that money spent on a digital campaign or a personalised campaign would pay dividends. So I think it's don't get above your station, keep it simple, and that is what marketing is. Keep it simple.
Simplicity, isn't it? Yeah. And the great news about that is that you don't have to spend as much money on simplicity either, do you?
Absolutely.
And it goes back to what we were saying at the start of the show, really about influencers and harnessing your audience and your existing customers. Really, what do you think, Keith?
I know it's an old expression now, but back to basics. But you really do, and as just said, it's very much that. And we spent all this money, and I saw a printed piece of material on Friday, which I'd only just seen, and it had a huge spelling mistake on the front page.
It's basic copywriting.
Absolutely, it's gone. It's gone through. I don't know how many checks. It's been printed, and as soon as you look, you went, "There's a spelling mistake." And if it's online, you can quickly take that off and do it. But when it's printed, that's it. And it is back to basics, isn't it? You see so many grammar errors in some of the marketing, and I think it's important.
Yeah, why do you think that's happening? Because I'm a bit of a grammar police type person myself. Why are we seeing more of that? Is it down to tech speak, or people relying more on social media than WhatsApp than traditional communication? Why are we seeing that slight dip in quality, do you think? Or are we? Is that fair?
I don't think grammar's taught in school as it used to be. Obviously, there's a different era dealing with the copy than what they used to be. And what's socially acceptable, like you say, on social media, very quick to react, so people won't use it. But when it goes to print, that's where you're going. The mistake's going to be highlighted. And people will jump on it because it shows that they know better.
Exactly, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thinking about more positive things, favourite marketing campaigns of 2019, and we'll open this up beyond automotive, so it doesn't have to be anything to do with cars. Matthew, we'll start with you. What's been your favourite campaign that's really stood out?
That's a difficult one. That really is. Sadly, nothing stands out for me.
Okay.
I think even we're at Christmas and everyone's watched the latest adverts and so on, and you actually just sit there and go, "Is that it?" Okay. And I think this year there's probably been a rise of me looking at things thinking, what are you trying to sell me? Because I don't get it. And it's beautiful, and its cinematography is fantastic, and landscape, whatever product is, you sit there and go, that's not different. Right. We do a thing where when we're at shows, we give out socks.
Okay.
Lose your socks, not your leads. And we have more requests for those socks than any of the expensive giveaways. You get people at shows who go around looking for the giveaway sort of thing. We're becoming known for our socks.
Yep.
That has more impact than advertising and digital media and things like that. So it goes back to what Keith said. Keep it simple.
Yep.
These people get blown out of all proportion with their budgets. Just keep it simple.
And also, you've got something tangible there with the socks, haven't you?
Absolutely.
I think it's if you receive a piece of mail these days, hard physical mail, it's surprising, isn't it? You think, what's this? Yeah. That's probably a tactic that's being used more and more often, I think. Keith, any thoughts on particular marketing campaigns this year that have delighted you or surprised you in a good way?
My team hate me because I have a saying that there's no new marketing; it's just reinvented. And I know the guys talked about it earlier, but I thought the BMW advert with regards to the doctors was fantastic. I mean, I've worked for Mercedes for a long time now, and you watched it, and I was convinced until that last bit. I was like, "Oh my god, that is amazing!" And that stood out. That was fantastic.
That is a reason to listen to the previous episode, actually, which we won't. We'll leave it on a cliffhanger there. So if you haven't seen that advert, I've seen it. It's very, very, like you say, so convincing and funny as well. There's nothing wrong with it being funny and poking fun at one brand. Darren, anything in particular that springs to mind?
Something out of industry, and it was actually the music industry that this campaign came from. There was a heavy rock band from Sheffield called While She Sleeps, and they did a campaign based around a new T-shirt for the band. And the campaign we've used to stress how the music industry has changed over the last 20 years and stressed how important selling merchandise is now to bands over selling actual music. It's just stated on the T-shirt that it would take the equivalent of 5,000 streams of the band's music to give the band the same revenue of just selling one T-shirt. It then reminded the audience that 76% of music is actually streamed now, as opposed to sort of physical purchases. And it said, buy this T-shirt and you'll support your band and support the industry and keep the thing that you love running a lot longer than just doing your part in terms of listening to the music. And I really liked the fact that that had a really wide impact in terms of the industry. They designed a template of the T-shirt that other bands and fans could then print to spread the message further. And again, it's about that community thing, isn't it?
It's simplicity again. I mean, band T-shirts, things that have been around for centuries, but you get kids wearing Ramones T-shirts who probably don't know who the Ramones are. But and it's just simplicity, keeping it simple. Totally agree. Joel, do you think of anything that marketing-wise that's...
I think... probably not standing out, but clever marketing. I always think of this one, and that's the innocent drink. They brought out a smoothie this year, and they called it. I'll get it the right way around. I think they called it Blue. Yeah, they called it Blue.
Yep.
And it's green. And I don't know whether it was an organic idea
or a copyright mistake, maybe.
But they went on social media with it, and the argument started: is it green or is it blue? And organically, it grew out, and brand awareness. It was absolutely brilliant because cheap advertising campaign. I don't think you could have predicted, and it comes down to being adaptable to how that's going to go. But that one really stood out for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, not complicated.
No, not at all. No, it's similar to what I think probably my favourite was. I'm sure I'm going to get this wrong probably, but I'm sure it's Brewdog, who just have a 10-20 second TV advert, and it's just the word advert on the screen with music behind it, and that's it. White background, black lettering, nothing more. Appears for 10 seconds and disappears. And for a similar reason, it gets you thinking, and then you head onto Twitter and start typing. You type in Brewdog advert. Then you start getting involved in conversation because people are saying, "Did you see that advert?" So that would have cost them pennies, not pennies, but very little. And it's it's that simplicity thing, isn't it? Really. That kind of brings me on to the final point, really, which is as we're getting nearer 2020 now. What are your predictions for next year? If you could give me one thing which you think might continue, like a trend that might continue, or something we're likely to see rise in marketing, can you think of anything? I've hit you off topic with this because this wasn't on the outline, you see. I'm going to see what we get off the cuff here. But what do you reckon, Matthew? Anything you can think of for next year that's going to be particularly important for marketers?
I think much more of experiential marketing, talking directly to the consumer and offering them or giving them something additional, but much more along the lines of experience. There's a luxury car brand in London who their sort of VIP club is they'll get you a table at Gordon Ramsay or Discount and Harrods or and that sort of thing. And even at that high end, people make use of it. I think where we talked earlier about the lack of loyalty to brands and so on, I think building that loyalty by offering the customer something more, and delivering on what you offer as well. I see that happening, is that marketing will become a lot more personal, and the message will be tailored to your needs and will be a package tailored to what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So and especially through digital. So yeah.
And that's good news for consumers, isn't it? Because we all want personal. We all want things that mean something to us. Darren, what are you expecting from next year?
Yeah, I think you've hit it on the head there in terms of the personalisation. But I think we've done personalisation for the last few years, but what we've got wrong is we've given too much choice. I think what we're doing now is to put the legwork in to really craft that personalisation before it delivers to the end customer. So they really do feel as if the buy-in experience is, again, using the word again, simple.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit of a theme today, isn't it? Might be a show title. Keith?
We've avoided the B word today, but for me, in marketing, it's GDPR is the challenge, and it's it's getting around that and getting access to people, because you've lost all, if you've got a customer database now, you've lost, or probably lost, a big percentage of that you can get to. So it's winning them back on side, and or everything we've said, content they want to look at, but you may have lost them for the last year. You've got to their next visit into the service department, got to get them back on side. Otherwise, they're not going to get any of these great sales messages and just finding the right channel. I
guess also with GDPR, is it another thing with that where there's all that flurry of activity getting compliant in 2018? Is it worth businesses revisiting what they need to do to be compliant? Because it's not a start and stop thing, is it? You have to continually be GDPR compliant. Is next year going to be a good time to review once again, what data capture and storage and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. We were quite heavy into GDPR before it even launched, and we've continued. But there's still things that come up now that catch you out, and you think, oh, where does that sit? I believe we're quite on top of that, but there must be so many companies out there that perhaps may not be, and eventually someone's going to get caught out, and it'll hit all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Joel, last but not least, what are you expecting from 2020?
I think my word for 2020 would be transparency. I think certainly with the way people market now, there's no hiding. So everybody's got to be a bit more honest, and gone are the days where you can have one over on the customer. They know what they're coming to buy, and you've got to be transparent not only on your testimonials and your data about what they're buying as well. So I think transparency, if you think we're transparent already, I think next year you're going to see more transparency.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Thank you, guys. That's it. Guys, very quickly, we could talk an awful lot about marketing, and that's just another excuse to get you back on at some stage, I think. But thank you very much for taking part in the second ever Armchair Show. Very much appreciated. That just leaves it for me to say thank you for listening and watching if you're watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, if you can hit the subscribe button and then click the little bell at the bottom, that will give you a little notification whenever we publish a new episode. But you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We're everywhere, basically. So wherever you find us, make sure you subscribe and leave a review, please. But thanks again, guys. Good speaking to you. Until next time.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.